Okay, so just to kind of give you guys an idea of how dysfunctional, or not dysfunctional, but how unstructured this rambling will be, I'm going to be talking about 7 different topics from 3 different dates in my notebook right here. Um, Basically, from 1/18/11, I wrote in my notebook why I reject scientism, which basically I define as a worship of science, which I'm not claiming is the real definition, but that's my definition here. 1/31/11, I had prostitutes versus strippers, gambling versus the lottery, and spanking children. 2/1/11, I had friendship and altruism, homosexuality and Greece, which is basically pedophilia, and self-interest and virtue ethics. So the last one's very philosophical. Everything else is kind of philosophical too, but it's sort of, very mixed, and it's all kind of some of it's very miscellaneous. But anyway, I want to get into this. So I was thinking about scientism at that time, I think, because a lot of times when people refer to secular ethics, that is ethics that don't have anything to do with God, you basically have your morality without God. You don't need Him to give you what's right or wrong. People turn to science for what's right or wrong. Morality comes from our genes. Like, I think Dawkins, Richard Dawkins, a famous or infamous, I guess how you view him, atheist, who talks about that in one of his books, I think. Could be wrong though. I'm not big into Dawkins or anything. So people like, I don't want to say like Dawkins, but people who have that sort of view that it's genes or that it's our makeup or whatever, tend to think science is the answer to most of our problems, or maybe even all of our problems. The scientific method is basically the new idea of faith or blind faith, and basically it can't go wrong no matter whether it actually is wrong or not. So scientism in that light, as a worship of science, seems kind of silly to me, because basically you're just replacing the man in the sky with man on the ground in white coats. So it seems kind of silly to me to worship science or God. You should have a sort of open-minded view towards both. In the end, I think you should reject God, but I think you should give both a try and see, what works. Not all religion is blind faith. I think a good portion of it certainly can be, and sometimes is. But I don't think it should be discounted, and I don't think you should hate all people who are religious. So that'll be kind of my spiel about religion and science. On 1/31/11, I was thinking about contradictions, so like prostitutes and strippers. Basically, strippers are just legalized prostitutes, except that they're not on the streets and they're not hunted down by police officers. Strippers basically do the same thing that prostitutes do, except that the government arbitrarily says that that's okay, but prostitution isn't. I don't understand how. Basically, prostitutes are selling strippers are selling their body, just in the same way that prostitutes are doing it. If anyone wants to explain this difference to me, I'd love to hear it, but it seems pretty arbitrary to me. So too does gambling versus the lottery. Basically, gambling isn't legal until you're about like 21, but the lottery is legal once you're 18. Now, lottery is basically gambling. I mean, you can't have a gambling place in your house, but you can participate in the lottery. I mean, it just seems really contradictory. Maybe that wasn't the best way to put it, but the whole idea that the state can hold a sort of gambling institution or create one whenever it wants, and you have no power over your own money until you reach an arbitrary age, seems, again, very arbitrary and very contradictory to me. So that's why it kind of interested me. Spanking children. I do not remember why I was talking about spanking children, but I do know that I'm very much opposed to it. I think the violence that happens in kids' lives, sometimes, not all the time. I don't think all the time when kids get spanked, they turn violent, like some people like to say. But I do think it increases the chance, and I do think it's a chance not worth taking. I think hitting your child only reinforces the point that violence does solve problems and issues, and you really shouldn't be telling your child that either through your actions or your words. You should be consistent as possible. Sometimes you may have to hit them or pull them out of the street or something like that. I'm not saying you should be totally careless with your child, and I'm certainly no expert on children. I'm 19. It's not like I have kids and like I've raised them or whatever. But I do think psychologically, it's just, and morally speaking, it's just not right to not attack, but harm. And there's no doubt that spanking can cause harm. Harm to people who don't even understand the difference between right and wrong. So on 2-1-11, I started talking about friendship and altruism. I think because we were talking about Aristotle and in philosophy class, and I'll get more into Aristotle and Kant and John Stuart Mill in later videos of my ramblings. But for now, I just kind of want to talk about friendship and altruism and say, when you're in a friendship, and I know this, you don't have to be altruistic. You don't. I mean, I don't remember where I was coming from this, but I can talk about the topic generally, and say, I don't think you have to be altruistic to be a good friend. I don't think you have to give up yourself. I don't think you have to give away exceedingly. Like Aristotle said, there's a golden medium for your actions, and you want to do, the best good possible, the most virtuous thing possible for your friend. And friendship in of itself should just be an end in of itself. You shouldn't do it for utility, because those never last long, as Aristotle points out. You shouldn't do it for pleasure, because of the same thing. And often those are too controlled by emotions. Not to say emotions are bad, but in this case they're exceedingly controlled by emotions to the point where the relationship is unsustainable. So again, it's like the utility, except in a different context. But friendship should be an end in of itself. And I have friends like these. I have very good emotional connections with a few people that I wouldn't give it up for almost anything. It really makes a difference in your life, and really can improve your happiness, but you got to do it in the right way, and there's no need to be altruistic about it and give up yourself. Homosexuality in Greece. I thought this was interesting. Apparently in Greece, old men used to take younger men, I believe with their consent. I'm not sure. But it was considered a good thing for an old man to take a young man under his wing, and in exchange for sexual favors or favors in general of some sort of relationship, basically they would, what would be now called pedophilia, but basically that was not frowned upon. That was actually looked upon as a very good thing, as the person they're trading whatever for desired goods. I mean, I guess I could expand and talk about pedophilia. I'm really, it's hard to put it, I guess, in a simplistic way, because I don't want to alarm people, but I think the age of consent is really ridiculous and a nebulous concept. I think it should be up to the person when they want to have sex, and if they're young, their parents should have a say in it. I don't think there should be one universal age, and I don't think if it's violated, then the people should be thrown in prison and should be scared to have to death about whether they're going to be thrown away in jail or not. Not that I'm saying I support predators, or I support people who prey on teenagers and can emotionally manipulate them to have sex with them. No, obviously that's wrong. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about consensual relationships, and the parents should have a say in it if they don't feel like their child can have a say for themselves. That's all I'm going to say on that. I'll talk about age of consent some other time, but I really don't like it. And I have a lot of personal reasons for that too. Self-interest and virtue ethics. I don't remember what I was talking about here. This is the bad thing about writing these short little things down. I never really expanded upon them in my notebook, because I planned on doing a video about it or talking about it at some point, but I never got around to it until now, a month later. So I think self-interest and virtue ethics has to do with, I think I was talking about Rand and Aristotle. That is Ayn Rand, the writer of Atlas Shrugged and a few other books that The Fountainhead, and a few other books, other philosophical books besides novels. But I think I was talking about how self-interest, it's in your self-interest to follow virtue ethics, because people naturally want to do what is most virtuous, what is most good. And it may be to get happiness, but generally what's best is the good in of itself, not the good for some other end. So maybe that's what I was talking about, but that's what I came up with here. Alright, well, I'm going to be doing my intro to bass on Wednesday and my second rambling on Friday. And then I think I'm going to do a rant on Monday. I forget what it was going to be about, so I may or may not. Wednesday I'll do another one, I'll do my first base cover, and then Friday I'll do another rambling. And by then I should have a few more ramblings lined up. So the next few weeks are going to be filled with base, rambling, and ranting. So I hope you enjoy. And I think that about covers it. So until next time, see ya.